Pygame is an open source library specifically made for Python for making video games. In this video, I will use Pygame to code as many games as I can for a solid 100 days. The rules are simple. I have to use Pygame for 100 days. I will not be doing the challenge 100 days straight for obvious reasons, and for this video, I'm going to try and make 5 games within the first 33 days. Will I be able to endure 100 days of Pygame? Stick around to find out. On day 1, I decided to make a cops and robbers game, so I started off by creating a simple for loop. Afterwards, I worked on the player art. Then I loaded the player and drew it on the screen and made it move. Once that was done, I proceeded to create a start button for the game and art for the coins. It's beautiful. I quickly coded in the coins into my game. The last thing I had added on day 1 was text for the game. For day 2, I had added cops in the game to try to stop the player. They will either move left or right, and I think they turned out completely fine. To add another layer of defense, I created bullet shooters that, well, shoot bullets. Unfortunately, I didn't have enough time to fully finish coding in the bullet shooters. Day 3 was super short, but I did add the bullet shooter, but it needs some work. Unlike day 3, day 4 was productive. I made the bullets give the player less concussions and coded in healing hearts. But when I added them in, the animation looked pretty dang ugly, so I fixed it a little. But looking back, it doesn't look that ugly. Wait, pause. Anyways, I started making some sound effects using FL Studio and importing them into my game. Speaking of games, it wasn't really challenging at all, so I decided to make one more obstacle. The bomb! It would stop the player in their tracks easily, as you'll see later on. I tried to make the explosion, but had a hard time doing so. I even got distracted making something else. Good job, me. Good job. Day 5 was a short day, just like day 3. All I did was make art for the explosion. On day 6, I got a lot done. I tried adding text when the player died, but I decided to hold back on it for some reason. And when I finally finished the explosion, it was too small, so I had to go back to Piscal to fix it. The bombs didn't really seem to be a threat to the player, so I gave them legs. But this difficulty wasn't enough, so each time you collect all the coins on screen, the enemies get faster and stronger. And your main goal is repeating the same process 9 times to win the game. At first, the game is easy, but even when I got to level 3 or 4, I would easily die. After 2 hours of tweaking, the game was kind of easy until the bombs became faster. After adding more quality of life updates, the game was nearly finished. Day 7 was when I finished my first game of this challenge. I didn't do much, but I did add the most important thing any player should be able to do: pause the game. Then after tweaking and fixing bugs, the game was finished. Day 8 was kind of sloppy. I wanted to make a space shooter game, but first I found out I could resize the screen, and I wanted to scale up objects when the screen resized, but it didn't work out in my favor, and it was a little buggy. But outside of that, I made the player art and the laser art. That's literally everything I did on this day. Day 9 wasn't productive either, since it was a Sunday, and I'm usually relaxing on those days. Anyways, all I did was test the player movement, which mind you, didn't work in my favor. Day 10 was the day I actually had to take things more seriously, so I fixed the movement, created enemies, and I was doing well, until a really weird bug was occurring. You see, when the player shoots the laser, it's supposed to hit the enemy, right? But for some reason, most lasers phase right through them. Frustrated, I took a break from the screen to get some rest. Day 11 made me rip all my hair out. Previously from the last day, I tried to fix the bug, and it still didn't work. On day 12, the coin gods had finally blessed me with something that actually worked. Relieved, I continued on, but surprisingly, I didn't do much on this day either. Don't get me wrong, I fixed the collision bug, but outside of that, all I did was create the health bar for the player. Now for the fun part, the explosion, and you'll see why later. The explosions would appear when an enemy dies, but that's not all. If the said explosion collides with another enemy, they will also blow up, creating a chain reaction. Similar to the laser incident, this feature also took a while to code, but luckily I managed to get it working before the day came to a close. The things I added on day 14 was enemies that can shoot lasers at you, more enemies overall, more sound effects, and some text. With all that, this game is starting to come together. I didn't really add much on day 15. The most I did on this day was just playtest for fun. Day 16 was just improving and adding stuff into the game. I also made a new class called Items, which is self-explanatory for its uses, and with it, added a source of healing. I made explosions cooler looking on day 17. That's it. Next! Day 18, blah blah blah. I did the usual improving and adding stuff into the shooter game. I scripted enemy waves, ignored a bug, and was worried I wasn't going to complete the side challenge of making 5 games. But as restless as I was getting, this game was almost finished. Probably. Anyways, I made a cool looking ship, created a hard mode, and added a beautiful space background. Just look at it! Have you ever been to the arcade and used the claw machine? Anyone who has used it knows it's absolutely rigged. And on day 20 I decided to back off on the current project I was working on in order to complete this simple one. I made the player claw, the toys, and the mechanics surprisingly on the same day. Basically, you're a claw trying to grab as many balls as you can. When you latch onto one, it's all luck based. You see where I'm going here? To add more salt in the wound, you spend money each time you ascend. Don't gamble, kids. And frankly enough, on day 21, I had added music, sine waves, and of course, rage bang the player when the claw drops the ball. In my opinion, I think I did a pretty good job of frustrating the player. And actually, I'll let you hear the music that I made. Play it now. Play it now. What's taking so long? Thank you. Now anyway, watch out for the black balls. If touch will guarantee you -1 points. That's really all I did for this game. I'm glad I was able to make it. Before I start this day, I decided to test out scaling objects with the screen, and after a solid 5 hours of off-camera coding and both eyes hurting, I finally figured it out! Now let's make our next game. My plan for this game was simple. The player is slippery and clunky. He needs to traverse a dungeon with his icy-like movements. Nothing was getting in the way of me finishing this. Tiles were obviously going to be included. At first I thought everything was working fine until I realized they weren't. The collision once again was acting up, but filled with determination I worked at it, forgetting all the things around me, and nothing was going to stop me from— I didn't fix the bug. Man, I don't want to talk about this day, but to put it simply, I still couldn't fix the bug. I tried, and sadly came to the conclusion that I wouldn't be able to finish this game. After burning out on the previous day, I came back on day 24, ready to start over. This time I decided to make a bullet hell game. For people unaware on what I mean, it basically means there will be a bunch of bullets on the screen that you need to dodge. On each level, there will be a new bullet pattern for the player to dodge. When the timer hits 0, the player would move on to the next level. I recycled the player art from the previous game I failed, and got to work. At the end of the day, I managed to make 3 levels in one day. The first level starts off with spikes, alternating direction. Then, the second level expects us to dodge flying spikes. Over time, said spikes will slowly but aggressively get faster. Finally, the third level makes us dodge falling boulders from who knows where. I'm glad I figured out how to make objects bounce so smoothly. On day 25, I made a new level. It really wasn't that special, it was just these weird drone-looking things moving around the screen. For day 26, the only thing I did was focus on making music. I didn't put my all into it, but it sounds fine. I would have done more things, but look at the date, Deltarune Chapter 5 is out now. Now, if it seems like I'm not doing much these days, that's because I'm really not. I've been dragging behind, so I want to finish what I have started like 3 months ago. Anyways, I added confetti that can kill you. For level 5, you have to dodge the confetti that the party had spit out, or you'll die! Also, on day 26, I had added a background, I just didn't bring it up. Day 28 was when I finished all the levels. I wanted to keep it short and sweet since I was on a time crunch. Level 6 consists of bombs that fall from the sky. When they land, they make a big explosion that rises up. Why am I always getting distracted when making these explosions? This level can be challenging, but not as challenging as the boulder section. Day 29 consisted mostly of visuals, and looking back, I was surprised on how much I was able to get done. I made 2 new backgrounds, a health bar, and even a hard mode. Hard mode simply doubled the time. even though I added these features, I still needed to finish this game, and quick. Even though the scope was big and the time was small, I made a score mode. Instead of dodging the bullets, you have to touch as many as possible. You will lose points every time you miss one. Score mode is just a fun little addition added into the game. Not gonna lie, day 31 was kinda boring. I didn't do much but fix bugs, but there were a few bugs that I was unable to fix. For example, the high score glitch and the explosion glitch. I removed the high score counter and ignored the explosion glitch. Unsatisfied, I called this game finished. Then I went back to my original shooter game. Looking at the scope in my brain, I definitely wouldn't finish this game in time. One thing I worked on is the resistance. The higher the resistance, the less damage the player would take. But it wasn't working, and I couldn't solve the problem. But on day 32, I decided to replace the resistance with max HP. Each time the player levels up, it gains more max HP, creating an illusion that the player has more defense. After some trial and error, I finally implemented it. But each time the player leveled up, it looked like it was losing HP, and I did absolutely nothing to fix it. The final day of this challenge, day 33, was quite fun to say the least. First, I worked on making music. I rushed it, but it sounds really good, and it fits the vibe of the game. I then worked on visuals and polished up the game. Woo, that was a lot. Thank you so much for watching. This video was so fun to make. Don't get me wrong, on the later days I start to get restless, but overall, this was worth the challenge, and I highly recommend Pygame for beginner game devs. But before I go, I want to show you the games that I've made. Have a good day, and I'll see you later.